All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Today is using emotional intelligence to reset your career. Discover how mastering your emotions can transform your professional journey. Learn practical techniques to communicate effectively, express yourself confidently, and maintain optimism even in tough situations. Walk away with actionable strategies to boost your career growth and success. And this is led by Edythe Richards, an executive coach and emotional intelligence practitioner and trainer. She is an HR manager at the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority and founder of A Top Career. Richards is also the host of three popular podcasts: Myers-Briggs Question Corner, MBTI for Midlife Career Changers, and EQ at Work. And I again want to thank the Friends of the Library for sponsoring. And Edythe, I apologize if any of that was outdated. But folks, all 86 of us who are watching live and the many more that will watch the recording, let's give a big virtual round of applause to Edythe for joining us this morning. And Edythe, you can take it away. Thanks so much.
Okay, well, thank you, Robert. And I'm so pleased with the number of people who have joined us today. The pressure's on for me, so thank you all for being here. I am a certified emotional intelligence practitioner and trainer. I have been working with job seekers for over 20 years, and one of my missions in life is to help people locate and sustain meaningful employment. And the most important way I think that everyone can do this is through the conscious use of emotional intelligence. And I tend to call it EQ. Some people call it EI. I tend to call it EQ. So as Robert mentioned, I do have a day job. I work at, I'm in Washington, D.C. at the Airports Authority, and I work in human resources. I do work closely with recruiters and hiring managers. And from that perspective, I would say about 80% of the skills that job candidates are missing that would either land them a job or get them promoted fall into this area of emotional intelligence. I am also a certified coach, specializing in leadership coaching, and I use a number of psychometric tools, including the EQI 2.0, which we're going to take a look at shortly. I also have been laid off multiple times. I do have a special interest in working with job seekers. So let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty, so before I get into our specific agenda items, I want to take a moment to say that I understand how tough these times are. And for those of you who are actively job searching and it seems like you're sending out resume after resume and you're just not getting the results that you want, I hear you, I see you, I empathize with you. Today's webinar is not going to be specifically focusing on job search strategies. Instead, we are going to be talking about how you can shift your mindset, how you can recover from setbacks, and how you can use the power of emotional intelligence to move you forward. And these are skills that anyone can develop. I'm going to be talking about why these skills are so necessary today, and even more, in my opinion, than our hard skills or subject matter expertise. And stay with me. I'm going to share some specific strategies that you can start using today. So our focus today, a few of the things that we're going to touch on is recognizing your emotions and their impact. This is something very few of us do regularly. And as we'll see, practicing this more honestly and regularly is going to make a world of difference for you. Strategies to express yourself in positive, healthy ways, strengthen your communication skills, and maintaining optimism during challenging times. 2025 has really been a challenging year in so many ways, and we are barely halfway through. So I'm hoping that some of what we're talking about today is going to help you as we move through the year and beyond. All right, so this brings me to my first question for the group, and please feel free to chime in to the chat, or I think you could unmute yourself if you're more comfortable doing so. But what does emotional intelligence mean to you? Would love to hear from you.
And Edythe, just so you know, we're going to keep everyone muted today.
Oh, gotcha.
So
Okay.
it'll be a chat only webinar.
Gotcha. Okay, so we'll just chime in the chat. Okay, so feelings. Emotions often equate to feelings for sure. Recognizing emotions and those of others, learning to manage them. Love what you're bringing here, self-regulation, being aware of the impact, not being too sensitive, awareness of feelings and of others, having empathy, reading the room. I love that one. Ability to stay calm under pressure. You guys are coming up with some really good ones here. This is great. Understanding your emotions, how to control them and how they impact you. This is all really, really good stuff. So in addition to what you all shared here, I like this definition of emotional intelligence. It's really simple. It cuts straight to the concept. Recognizing, understanding, and managing your own emotions, and recognizing and understanding and influencing the emotions of others. So in practical terms, this means that being aware that emotions drive our behavior and impact people, both positively and negatively, and learning how to manage those emotions, both our own and in others. So I always say the best gauge of someone's emotional intelligence, or EQ, is how they show up under stress. Emotional intelligence becomes really important when we are trying to meet tight deadlines, for example, or when we are receiving critical feedback, or when we're dealing with challenging relationships. And EQ is also showing up profoundly when we're in the midst of a job search or another challenging time in our lives. So if we stop to think about emotions, emotions affect everything that we do. They drive our behavior. They shape our perceptions. They affect our learning and our memory, and they impact our relationships. You are here today because on some level, your emotions impacted your decision to join this webinar. Two things I want to mention before we go any further that really speak to the importance of EQ. First, emotions are universal. We all have emotions, and how we choose to deal with them is going to vary from person to person, culture to culture, family to family, situation to situation even. So let's talk about a common emotion that some of us might be feeling right now, and that's anxiety. We each may have a different way of dealing with our anxiety, whether that's productive or unproductive. And we've all had anxiety for many different reasons. So the point here is that everyone has emotions and you can't escape them. You have to find a way to deal with them. My second point here is that emotions impact performance. And let me just spell it out here. If you have recently lost a job, you're going to be anxious. And anxiety is one of these emotions that's going to completely derail you if you let it. And you may not see. So there's a lot of uncertainty, I know, when you're unemployed. You don't know when or if you're going to be able to find another job. And once you do, is it going to be a salary that's going to be able to sustain you and pay your bills? Is it going to be a good work environment? Now, if you're actively job searching, does your anxiety come across in your email communications with recruiters or with hiring managers or in an interview? And before you say, absolutely not, think about it. Be honest with yourself and get some honest feedback from others, maybe. The problem is that a lot of us, and I'd say the majority of us, don't stop to think about that behavioral aspect of the feeling that we're portraying to others. And this can affect not just our performance, but our relationships. So I'd like to invite you to pause for a moment here and reflect on this and be honest with yourself. Think about whatever challenge it is that you're facing right now, and then think about the behavioral aspect of that challenge. How is that affecting the people around you? And you don't have to share unless you'd like to. This is just something for you to think about on your own. But I am going to pause here and just take a look at the chat. And feel free to ask a question or chime in if you'd like. Understand here working with difficult manager and everyone doesn't get along with. Managers don't have an interest in emotions and try to stifle them. And in a lot of the work world, yeah, that's true. The one thing that we are missing here is that I'll say in the modern workplace, there still is this idea are not meant to be at work. But I'm going to counter that and say emotions affect everything that we do, whether we're aware of them or not. All right. So let me move on here. So I'd like to briefly introduce you to the EQI 2.0 model of emotional intelligence. This is the world's leading model of emotional intelligence. It has decades of research behind it, and it allows you to quantify your emotions. Essentially, you're asking yourself, what does your behavior say about you? So there are 15 elements or competencies of emotional intelligence. And when we tune into these competencies, we make better decisions. We communicate with greater clarity. We increase our ability to handle stress, and we have more connected relationships. And these are all things that successful people do every day. You'll note that there are also 5 composites of emotional intelligence. So self-perception, self-expression, interpersonal, decision-making, and stress management. So each composite has 3 elements, and some are things that you might think about when you think of emotional intelligence. Some things were mentioned earlier, like empathy, self-awareness maybe. And some are things we may not think about when we think of emotional intelligence. So we're going to go into a couple of these areas in more depth shortly. So the circular model here indicates that all of these facets of emotional intelligence are interconnected. And let's face it, this is not easy. Emotional intelligence is not easy. And a big reason for that is because we're not always aware of how other people perceive us. And because we haven't trained ourselves to stop and think about what it is that we are portraying to others. We're human, and we often go about our lives on autopilot. So 3 other reasons that EQ might be difficult. First is the amygdala hijack, and that relates to automatic triggers and how our brains are wired. Second is a lack of awareness, a general lack of awareness among people. And then the third area is what I call a global decline in empathy. So let's take a closer look at these 3 items here. So first is the amygdala hijack, and a lot of you may be familiar with this. The amygdala is the oldest part of our brain. It's the part that's activated anytime we encounter something that's unfamiliar, unfamiliar situation or information or even people, whether it's good or bad. The amygdala controls our fight, flight, or freeze responses. And when it encounters situations that are unfamiliar or unexpected, it floods our bodies with stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. This is what kept human beings alive for millions of years. As a result, our bodies respond with these biological changes. So, for example, our pupils dilate, blood pressure increases, our heart rate increases, we sweat, and we feel stressed, even though there is no physical threat. And all of this is happening in our unconscious, and we're not even aware of it. This can cause us to behave in ways that aren't true to who we want to be or who we believe that we are. None of us is going to be able to change this. There are some ways to manage this stress, and we're going to talk about that shortly. So the second reason that emotional intelligence is often difficult is because of our lack of awareness. As a society, we're clueless. We have little to no idea how we're perceived. We have little ideas of what our strengths and our limitations are. We don't always see our biases. And worse yet, a lot of people don't care how they're perceived. So research suggests that only 10 to 15% of people are truly self-aware. And that means that 80 to 90% of people, 85 to 90% of people are not self-aware. If you are interested in learning more about this research, please check out the book Insight, and it's by Dr. Tasha Eurich, and that's Eurich, Tasha Eurich, and the book is called Insight. She has spent decades studying self-awareness, and she has published her findings in this book, and the book also talks about some different ways to boost your self-awareness, and we're going to be going over that shortly as well. And here's the issue with self-awareness. If we lack it, we may not understand where we can begin to improve. We may not even realize there's a problem. And that just makes things like the job search that much more difficult and ineffective. And so it really will behoove us to work on self-awareness, both internal and external self-awareness. So internal, being aware of what I'm feeling, why I'm feeling it, what I can do to continue feeling this way or stop feeling this way, but also externally, what is it that I'm portraying to other people in terms of maybe my body language, my facial expressions, the words that I choose to use, how I respond to people. All of this can either push us forward or set us backwards. All right, so let me move on here to the decline of empathy. We are in an empathy decline. So empathy is your willingness and tendency to connect with people on their level without using your own filters or judgments. And so it's about connecting with people using their point of view rather than from your own point of view. And our ability to connect with others in a deep and meaningful way has been dropping for decades. Ironically, excuse me, even though we are more connected than we have ever been, this skill is dropping. And the pandemic tended to heighten this problem. As a society, we are more and more uncivil and divided. And a lot of us are feeling anxiety and burnout and disconnection as a result. So we know from decades of research that empathetic leadership is a key to fostering resilience in times of uncertainty. So let me give you a little more perspective on this decline in empathy and the effects on today's workforce. I'm going to cite some research here. One study from the University of Michigan indicates that empathy has dropped as far as 75% since the late 70s. Dropped as far as 75% since the late 70s. Now, there's been a recent update to this study, and it indicates that we are starting to see increasing levels of empathy in young Americans. So that's good news. But empathy overall still appears to be on the decline. And this is, it's a skill that a lot of people struggle to do. Additionally, a little more research here. A 2023 study found that 2 in 3 Americans say they've become less empathetic in recent years. The scarier thing is AI, artificial intelligence, is learning from us. We are polarized on ideas on the political spectrum. As a society, again, we are not as connected as we think we are. And this brings me to job searching and networking. Empathy is absolutely crucial because it helps you connect with recruiters and hiring managers on a human level. And that's going to build more trust in you as a candidate. Strengthening empathy can help build rapport. And it can also help you anticipate the needs and expectations of those recruiters and hiring managers, get an understanding of other people's pain points. And this allows you to be more strategic and more efficient in your job search. I'm just going to pause here briefly and check the chat. We're now digitally connected, not emotionally connected. Very true here. Disassociation from kindness and relating to others. Thank you for putting the link to the book there. This is great. And all right. Excellent. Thank you. Robert, I'm going to rely on you to just at the end of the meeting today or the end of the presentation, just let me know if I missed anything important in the chat. But these are some really good points that you all are mentioning. Appreciate you chiming in there.
Will do. Will do.
All right. Thank you. All righty. So job seekers with active EQ. I think we can agree that emotional intelligence is super important in today's world, and that people who use these skills successfully are the people who communicate effectively and form strong relationships. They bounce back better from setbacks because they are willing and able to create positive coping strategies. All right, so let's talk about the 2025 career landscape. So first, competition is high. I think we can all agree on this as well. Fiercely, fiercely competitive. Once a job has been advertised online, it is very likely that there is a candidate in mind for that position. Perhaps someone has already been chosen. Once it's posted, everybody can see it too. So anybody can apply for a job. Even with all the technology we're using, strategic networking is still going to give you an edge. Studies still show that the most jobs people obtain are secured due in a large part to your ability and tendency to network both virtually and in person. Second, the rise of AI and automation. So resumes have been screened for years with ATS, applicant tracking systems, but these systems are getting smarter and AI is not going away. One of the best things that you can do is to embrace technology and focus on developing skills that machines can't replicate. Skills like EQ, complex problem solving. And speaking of EQ, there is a demand for more quote unquote soft skills. Creativity fuels innovation and problem solving, agility, flexibility, and resilience. These show that you're quick to adapt and change when rapid change is required. And you can keep going in the face of setbacks. Curiosity. If you're curious, this shows that hopefully you can stay up to date on your industry trends and learn new skills. And being a lifelong learner shows that you know continuous education is essential to stay relevant, and it shows that you have a growth mindset. So these are things that you can all think about demonstrating during an interview or even in networking situations. So next is networking and your personal brand. I cannot emphasize this enough. Update and maintain your LinkedIn profile and engage on LinkedIn. Share your expertise, contribute to discussions. This is all going to help you build your brand and establish credibility with others. And these are when doors open. There are many, many people who get opportunities this way, hidden opportunities. So I cannot stress this enough. Lastly, more important than anything else is your attitude. Your attitude and your mindset are what influence your success. So check yourself. Are you someone people want to be around? Are you likable? Are you easy to work with? Are you confident without being arrogant? How are your communication skills? Think about feedback that you get from others, your friends and family included. And if this doesn't convince you, a recent study from Human Resources Review states that 87% of employers choose a positive attitude over qualifications. So please remember, your technical skills and your subject matter expertise aren't enough to get you a job or a promotion. In fact, emotional intelligence is considered more crucial, especially in leadership and collaborative roles. Alrighty, so let's take a deeper dive into 4 areas of emotional intelligence that many job seekers, I have found, many job seekers struggle with these areas. And these may be related to the challenges that you yourselves are facing right now or not. I will say that by taking a few small steps to improve these areas, you're going to see massive good changes in your life. So we've got self-awareness, empathy, stress tolerance, and optimism. All right, so self-awareness. We've talked about this element a little bit already. This is your ability and tendency to recognize and understand your emotions, understanding the cause of your emotions and the impact they have on your actions and the effect on other people. So a few signs of low self-awareness: defensiveness, especially when you're receiving negative feedback, repeating negative emotional patterns, regretting decisions that you make, exhibiting behavior that doesn't match what you want to convey or what you think that you're conveying. What we really want to do when we have strong emotional responses about something is to pause and reflect on the trigger. Sometimes, many times, there is a deep-rooted issue that's actually the underlying cause. And many of us are blissfully unaware of our emotions. And if we don't control them, they will control us. So these are some boosting strategies to enhance your own self-awareness. So first, practice asking yourself why you feel or felt the way that you do or did. This allows you to think about what you may have done wrong and what you can continue doing or stop doing. Second is check for reactions from your audience or other people. Watch people's body language. Do they avoid eye contact, for example? Do they step away from you? Do they check their watch or phone? Any of these are signs that you may need to change your focus. Essentially, you want to ask yourself, am I getting the reaction that I want from people? Third, ask a friend or colleague whom you trust for feedback, or ask for their reaction. And then don't just listen, but take action. How you see yourself may not be how others see you. You may not have meant to come across in a certain way, but in the workplace, essentially, it really is often all about perception. So lastly, pause, reflect, and choose. Pausing your brain just for a couple of seconds is going to allow you to stop and change your focus before potentially saying something or doing something that you might regret. Reflect on what you're doing and why you're doing it. Is this really the image that you want to portray? Are you getting what you want by behaving this way? And finally, choose. Remember that emotions are universal, but behavior is a choice, and you can always choose your behavior. All right, let's move on to some boosting strategies for empathy. So we mentioned empathy earlier as well. This is about your willingness and tendency to connect with people on their level without using your own filters or judgments. This is a hard thing to do because we all have these voices in our heads that are based on our own worldview, our own biases. And trying to get into someone else's head isn't easy. The only way to truly practice empathy is to listen actively, with an open mind and an open heart. Let's take a look at some other ways that you can put empathy into practice. So talk to people. Don't assume, don't make assumptions. You never know what someone else's journey has been or what they're going through until or unless they tell you. Second is listen to hear, not to respond. This is a big one because this is something that a lot of us don't do on a regular basis. And our communications would improve so much if we could mindfully start doing this. Listen to hear and not to respond. Remove your own filters. Again, it's hard to do because we're human. The truth is that we don't know what the other person's perspective is unless they tell us. Lastly, I want to mention the platinum rule here. So this takes the golden rule a step further. So I'm always about upgrading to platinum. So the golden rule says, do unto others as you would have done unto you. So the problem with the golden rule is that it makes the assumption that your needs are the same as my needs. And that's not necessarily the case. So when we practice the platinum rule, you're treating others how they want to be treated. Again, it's not easy to do because you have to have a conversation with the other person to understand what their needs actually are. All right, stress tolerance. Stress tolerance is your ability to cope and respond to stress in a positive way. So when the body senses a threat or a stressor, it goes on high alert. And once that threat passes, the body can quickly recover, or at least it's supposed to work that way. Stressors can include things like health matters, work, money, family issues, also racism or gender inequality, regular daily hassles like traffic, right? With unrelenting or too many stressors, your body might be on a constant state of high alert. And this can lead to poor concentration, it can lead to bad moods, burnout, mental and physical health problems as well. And when stress becomes chronic, the body can't return to normal functioning. Chronic stress is linked to all sorts of health conditions. So stress management is very important for our overall health and well-being. So some tips here. First, recognize and counter the signs of stress. Pay attention to your body. Pay attention to things like your headaches, if you have cold hands, if your muscles are tight, body tension, a nervous stomach, even like clenching your teeth or feeling fidgety, or withdrawing. That's also a common symptom of stress. So knowing what your body triggers are for yourself and for others is often a very good first step. And then take action, deep breathing, stretching, going for a walk, journaling, or doing whatever you need to do to reduce the tension and relax. All very important things. Next is take some time for yourself. I can't stress this enough either. Self-care is so important for your daily routine, whatever that means for you. This might mean saying no and prioritizing yourself. Start small and focus on some things that you enjoy, like reading or yoga, exercise, listening to music, spending time with others, whatever it is that you need to do to shift your attention to something positive. Speaking of spending time with others, staying in touch with family and friends, humans are meant to be social beings. So the more in-person time you can make with others, the better. Of course, this also really depends on your own personal threshold for in-person get-togethers. The important thing here is to make human connection a priority. This is positively correlated with all types of benefits, including happiness and longevity, and resilience. View stress through a different lens. And what I mean here is to reframe the issue that you're having right now, or your whatever your problem is. Example, if you know that you get stressed sitting in traffic, reframe this as an opportunity to listen to some music or listen to a podcast. If someone gets angry or is rude to you, pause and think about what might be happening in that person's life. So lastly, seek help. All of us experience day-to-day stressors related to work and money, health, relationships, and we all need perspective from time to time. So seek out trusted friends or colleagues, or even health professionals. There truly, truly are people out there who genuinely want to help. All right, so the last item I wanted to take a little deeper dive into is optimism. Optimism is a pretty straightforward element, having a positive outlook on life and believing good things will happen. If you are low in this element, some signs of lower optimism, you may have trouble bouncing back from setbacks due to a lack of hope about the future. You may imagine the worst case scenario. You may not learn from your mistakes. You may try to shift the blame away from yourself. So if any of those sound familiar and you feel like you need a boost, first look at the benefit. Look for the benefit. A lot of people spend time thinking about what goes wrong in their lives and not nearly enough time considering what goes right. So even in the most difficult circumstances, there can be benefits. When one door closes, another door opens. Optimistic people limit the damage and they refuse to give up. They also can cultivate an attitude of gratitude for what they have. So try to look for the benefit. Second is seek the valuable lesson. We all review what happened after an important event, and almost inevitably, more pessimistic people are going to rehash the mistakes that they made, or even the price that they had to pay. And in contrast, optimistic people will think positively about themselves and the lessons that they learned. And this keeps you from being stuck in the past. It allows you to refocus on how you can improve in the future. Focus on the task. If you hit a roadblock, it's easy for your emotions to take hold. You might get fearful, anxious, angry, disappointed, and these emotions can end up paralyzing you if you let them. If you practice optimism, you can instead focus on the task that needs to be completed, and this can help you control your emotions. It is important to acknowledge real problems and challenges that you experience. But the difference here with optimistic people is that they're able to acknowledge the bad things, but then they can reframe them and get the energy they need from that reframing to get through it and move forward. Optimism is something that you can develop and grow, so you don't have to live this glass empty kind of life. So be real. This isn't about, talking about not addressing the bad things that happen, but just be real about it. All right. So let me just, before I move on here, I just want to check the chat. All right. Okay. All right. Glad you all like the platinum rule there. That's one of my favorites too. Okay. So, all right. We are coming to the end of the presentation part today. So if you have stuck around with me this long, I'm going to make an educated guess that you really do want to get better at emotional intelligence. And if this is the case, I do have a homework assignment for you or a challenge for you. And that this is the one thing that you can do starting today that is going to hit every element of emotional intelligence. And that's talk with someone with whom you disagree. Don't try to convince them of your point of view. Just listen. Don't try to convince them. Listen to what they have to say. And in doing so, shift your mindset from here's why I'm right to how might I be wrong. And you can do this with any hot button issue. And I know this isn't easy, especially if you're talking about something like politics and you're speaking with someone who's on the other end of the spectrum or on the other side. But I will say this is something very few of us do on a regular basis. And if we practice this more, I can guarantee you that we will see change and we will see good change. So this is my challenge to you. Alrighty, so I'd like to mention once again, emotions are universal. We all have them. We can't hide from them or ignore them. We have to find a way to deal with them productively. And second, emotions impact performance, both positively and negatively. Whatever it is that you are feeling on the inside, it's going to come out on the outside, whether you're aware of it or not. Finally, if you boost your EQ using some of the strategies that I shared with you today, you are going to boost your resilience. No matter what happens with your job search, this is going to help you to maintain your motivation, bounce back from rejections. Ultimately, it's going to help you to find the right opportunity. So this is it for me, but I think, yeah, Robert, hello, and I will let you take it from here. I can answer any questions.
Yeah. So folks, let's give Edythe a big virtual round of applause for a great presentation. We will take approximately 10 minutes of questions. Thank you to all 96 of us now who are watching live. That's great. To answer a question from Scott, yes, I will send out the slideshow and the recording later today via email. All right, so let's jump right in. Let's see here. Carolyn asks, does Edythe recommend any free tools for one to measure their EI or their EQ?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have, there might be, you know what? It's, I think a long time ago, I did a Google search for free EQ tests online. Of course, those are not going to be statistically validated for any particular purpose. So I wouldn't put a lot of stock into them. But I think there are some free resources out there for EQ. I'm just not coming up with any at the moment.
No worries.
But if you really do want to get a measure of your EQ, it would be useful, I think, to take an EQ assessment. And there are several different ones out there. It's not just the EQI 2.0.
So an anonymous attendee asks, how do we show these soft skills on a resume?
That is a really interesting question here. I would suggest refraining from listing soft skills and rather incorporating them into accomplishment stories.
Let's see, Angela writes, you mentioned once a position is posted publicly, frequently there is a candidate selected. What is your take on positions that are reposted, other than it may be a future position or a false representation of the company's growth?
Yeah, it definitely could be. It could be that for whatever the reason is, they're reposting it. They weren't able to find somebody the first time around. The point is that you really don't know. And if you've applied and you haven't gotten an interview, if you don't know anybody, or if you've tried to follow up and not gotten anywhere, I would suggest just moving on.
So an anonymous attendee asked about resumes. CG is asking about interviews. They ask, how does the practice of empathetic skills look for you at work? How do you engage with improving the empathetic skill set of your company's employees? And how would you recommend we highlight or demonstrate such skills in our job interviews?
Okay, so empathy is all about getting into another person's perspective. So if you can pause your brain and just try to quiet the voices in your head that are speaking to your own biases or what you think needs to be the right answer, and just open your mind and open your ears and just genuinely listen to the other person's perspective. And then you can rehash what somebody was saying, for example. So I hear you saying XYZ. Did I get that right? So that's an easy way to check your understanding.
Okay, an anonymous attendee says, how do I communicate my EQ while cold emailing my marketing plans and resumes while expressing interest in a role?
How, I'm sorry, Robert, can you reread that for me?
Yeah, and I slightly reworded it. I'm gonna
Okay.
say it the way they wrote it. Okay,
Okay. Yep.
how to communicate with EQ while cold emailing one's marketing plans resume while expressing interest in a role.
Okay, so I would suggest first breaking this down, because when we say communicate with EQ, as we saw, EQ has a lot of different elements. So I would say pause and think about exactly what it is that you want to communicate here. Are you, I'm just going to say it as an example here. Are you applying for a job that's going to require more empathy, more expression, something like that? Then be mindful of communicating that. If you are applying for a job that's going to require more assertiveness, that's another area of emotional intelligence. Be mindful of communicating that. One of the best ways I think that you can do this is to take a look at people's LinkedIn profiles and see how they communicate, and then try to take some strategies, mirroring strategies, to communicate in a way that they can relate to. I hope that makes sense.
So let's see. An anonymous attendee, what do you suggest doing in response to a coworker or supervisor who is derogatory or who makes truly unfounded remarks about you or other coworkers?
So one of the most important things I think that you can do is to maintain your poise and professionalism. So you can pause, you can communicate a lot without saying a word. And you can use a lot of eye contact. You can use your body language to convey that, you're not going to take being demeaned. But remember that once you open your mouth and whatever it is you say, you can't take it back. It's out there in the world.
An anonymous attendee says, should we think about generational differences or approach these concepts universally?
I think you should think about differences not just generationally, but individually as well. Everybody has a different opinion. Everybody's approaching something in a different way. And the truth is, you don't know what somebody else's opinion is, where they are with something, until you pause and have a conversation with them and listen to what they have to say.
Jill writes, I've noticed that when triggered, I am more likely to react without thinking clearly or from a defensive position. How can I recenter so that I may respond from a balanced place?
I think that comment itself really deserves a round of applause there, and a great deal of self-awareness, vulnerability, which I really appreciate. So thank you to that person who shared that. One of the best things I think you can do is practice pausing and don't say anything. Just count to 3 or count to 5. This is going to give your brain a chance to refocus. Remember, once you say something or do something, it is out there and you can't take it back.
An anonymous attendee writes, I realize that listing soft skills are meaningless. Can you give an example, though, of incorporating soft skills in a story?
You give example of, I think this is where, if we're talking about on a, like in an interview, I think this is where the research is really going to come into play here. It's going to be important for you to research the company, the role, and also the person or people who are going to be interviewing you. And as much as you can, try to get in their frame of mind, try to find out what their pain points are. And then you can identify the emotions or the aspects of EQ that you would like to convey in your interview. So, for example, let's say that let's say I'm applying for a counseling job or some type of helping profession, and I realize how important it is to convey empathy, and that I'm an empathetic person there in my interview. So I'm going to come up with some stories from my background about how I successfully demonstrated empathy, and I will weave those into the stories, the common interview questions that you're asked. And I would definitely, like, preparation, super important for this. I hope I've answered the question there.
So Devin notes that, well, Devin asks, how does EQ help regarding different cultures or attitudes or ethics regarding a job interview? For example, I don't like on Zoom video when the interviewer is not on Zoom video. So in other words, I think they're having an interview over Zoom and you can't see the interviewer. Sometimes this puts me down during the interview. Any comments there?
Oh goodness, yeah, that can be really frustrating, because in the absence of somebody on Zoom or on a Teams interview, you can't gauge what their expression is. So it's hard. And those of us who are students of communication know this, that it's your body language and your expressions that convey more than the words that you choose. So it's super hard. I want to acknowledge that. With that said, your interviewer is the one with the power. So there's a power dynamic there. And if you are interviewing for the job, unfortunate though it is, you've got to do what you've got to do to get that job. And if that means they're expecting you to be on camera when they themselves aren't, that's the way it is. And it's something for you to think about. It could be a clue to a power dynamic in that position that you may or may not want to deal with.
Yeah. Well, Edythe, I think we can start to wrap things up. I think that was our 10th question. So Edythe, do you have any last words for the audience?
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm just looking at the comments here. Thank you so much for this positive feedback. You all are just making my day, and I can't tell you how glad I am to read that. So thank you so much. I would love to connect with you all on LinkedIn too. If you could do me a favor, though, if you do connect with me, please make sure that you send me a personalized message and that you met me at this session here today. I would greatly appreciate it. And Really thank you for letting me be here, Robert. Appreciate you as well. And I'm wishing you all the very best with your job searches and whatever challenges it is that you're facing. So thank you again.
All right, excellent. Thanks so much, Edythe. So, folks, three quick things. We're going to be meeting next Wednesday, July 23rd, 9:30, 1 week from this morning. Online reputation management for job seekers with the great Susan Joyce, who's the president of Netability and the former publisher and editor of jobhunt.org. So Susan will be with us next Wednesday morning. I will put information about that in the follow-up email. And speaking of the follow-up email, point number 2, please look for that email later today with a link to the recording, a link to the slides, the chat, and I will include a direct link to Edythe's LinkedIn profile. I encourage you to connect with her on LinkedIn. And finally, when you exit the Zoom in a few seconds, please make sure to take the feedback survey that should pop right up. So thank you all so much, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day. Thanks again, Edythe.
Thank you, Robert. Take care, folks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.